Hi, this is Nick at Atlantic Laser Scanning. Today we have an indoor project scanned with checkerboard targets. We're going to try to register this project with just top-down and cloud-to-cloud registration. And if we run into any issues, we will go back and try to pull some of the corresponding checkerboard targets in and fix whatever scans may not fall in line. So today we're going to obviously go to our pre-processing button here to begin. Pre-processing and registration all are putting the scans together. Pre-processing would use particular targets to use for pre-processing, whereas straight registration is just going to use the top-down and cloud-to-cloud. So we'll start with pre-processing. We can always go back to it as well. We can choose one of these top folder heads here, or cluster heads. Either of these is going to include all the scans listed below. And go to the upper right hand corner, configure processing. Creating scan point clouds, we do not want to have a check mark on here. The reason being, if we do have a problem with this registration coming together, the time it's going to take to create both the registration and the point cloud is going to be excessive. So every time we try to fix what may go wrong with our pre-processing registration, if we've got one or two scans that don't come in with green lights, we're going to have to update that project point cloud every time, which is going to take even more time. Just easier to first get the project registered, then create the project point cloud. Because there could be light differentials in different areas of the project, we're not going to add colorization until afterwards. If we plan on doing any kind of work with the point cloud in scene, you may have outdoor scans that have had too much sun, too much light, and they'll blow out, or it'll look like the data is blown out, like an overexposed photograph. The truth is the data is all there. You just can't see it because of the photograph that's been laid over the point cloud. The same is true if you're indoors or if you're in a very dark area or an area that's shaded from the light. There's data there, but you can't see that data if you add the color to it. So we're going to first put the scans together, do any kind of measuring, or take a look at our project before we add the color to it. Once again, here are our options. If we were to use targets to register the project, you can check here for checkerboards or say here for spheres. But even though we have checkerboards that are in this scan, we're going to just come down here to the bottom, perform an automatic registration. The registration method, while if we used one of these checkerboards or sphere options, we would go to a target-based registration. But because we're going to see what will happen if we try to put this indoor project together without them, we're going to choose top view and cloud to cloud. There we can go ahead to the upper right hand corner to start pre-processing and begin letting the software put the scans together. The pre-processing is finished and we've got a successful registration. And it looks as though it was automatically split into two different clusters. So the first cluster has a yellow light. Double click on it, take a look at our point tensions, 4.5 millimeters. Looks as though the scan fit in 63 is the one that lowered our registration tension. And we've got green lights in the other cluster giving us about 4.5 millimeters again. Go ahead and lock that cluster. Now if we want, we can try to update the scan fit or just keep our scan manager that we've got here with the yellow light. Mainly, we want to look at what that scan tension meeting is, and that's 4.5 millimeters. If that is going to fit in with what your tolerances are, it should be just fine. We'll lock that cluster as well. Now, So we've left with the two different clusters here, and if you are working in the office, we're not in the field, you're going to need to see if these two clusters are supposed to go together. One of the ways we can start is to view this project in correspondence view. It's going to give us two big clumps or clusters, and we'll see if we can maneuver these around manually and see that they might go together without having to go in and do a whole lot of extra stuff. We click on one of the clusters here, number 2, we can bring it over here. See that that may or may not fit in with what our first cluster is. Looks as though we've got two different structures. While it may fit into this corner, it's difficult to tell. So one of the things that we can do outside of that is go into our old user interface, go to the settings in the right hand corner on the top, choose switch user interface. Now this option tool here, create a correspondence split view, will enable us to take a look at side-by-side scans and see if, in this case, if we take a look at what the mating scans are, 78 is our lowest, 63 is our highest. We'll see if these even go together. So we'll drag and drop 63, we'll drag and drop 78. In this case, they look to be completely separate areas. There really isn't a whole lot that we could even think might be related based on this being more of a control room area and this being a more of an open warehousing area. So it looks as though those don't go together at all. So in this case, we've got two separate projects. Now, this could easily have been separated before registration by going into the scanner itself, and when we finished with scans 56 to 63, you could have stopped the scan project and then gone in and done a sub-project under the project name that you had given for the, in this case, December 10th training would be the name of the project that you gave initially when the scan project was started. But once you enter another part of the building that will not be connected to the first part, then you can stop at the ending scan at 63, start either a new project or a sub-project under that project. A new project would have these two clusters and two separate project file names. A sub-project, many times you do that when you go from floor 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, you keep creating sub-projects. They would all end up in this project you see here on the left, but they would already be pre-clustered. So you would say floor number 1, then floor number 2, and floor number 3, and then you would have a connecting scan maybe in the stairwell to put them all together. But being that these two buildings are not part of the same structure from the way it looks, these could easily have been separated into two different projects by being in the field and giving them another separate file name or separate project name.